Welcome to Cocoo Sleep Session Episode 1. I'm Sue. I'm the founder and CEO of Cocoo, and I'm also the host of today's conversation. My guest today is Diva. She is an certified IPSP sleep consultant. She is also the founder of Be Rested. She is Cocoo's expert, and she has been a great help reviewing Coco's sleep standard and all kinds of methodologies and the app overall. Today, we're going to talk about how she usually diagnose baby sleep problems. And Avi, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, how you get into sleep consulting, and what your core philosophy are, and aims to, helping baby with their sleep or sleep training in general?
Yeah, so hi everyone, and thanks for having me, Sue. So I actually got into sleep training because I was struggling with my own son originally, and I didn't understand what sleep training was. I've had a lot of moms come up to me and say, "Well, why don't you just sleep train your son?" Because I would constantly complain about his night wakings, and I didn't understand that the concept of sleep training meant that the babies are independently sleeping, which means that when we actually teach them this skill, they'll learn to connect those sleep cycles without asking for mom or dad for help. So I didn't realize that. So I just always prolonged it until my son turned around seven, I want to say month eight to month nine. And then when I really did hit month eight to month nine, I was exhausted. So I was not sleeping well. I was honestly waking up every 2 to 3 hours. Every day was like a very moody day for me, I want to say. And one thing I really wanted to do was while I was sleep training my son, I really believed in helping other parents because I think we just get into survival mode and we don't even realize that we can Google things online or maybe actually really study baby sleep. And we don't even have time for that, if I'm being completely honest. So I wanted to be the expert on that. So that's when I went and got certified on top of sleep training my son. My biggest philosophy on sleep training is that it's not a one size fit matter. Like it definitely is. I definitely cater it from baby to baby and also from parent to parent, right? So some parents are great with the aggressive mode where they just want to get their baby to sleep or teach their baby to sleep right away. So they're like, what's the quickest method out there? Versus other parents are like, I don't want to hear my baby cry. I want it very gentle. So like it does cater from baby to baby, and also there's a lot more that goes into it. So it's not just baby to baby. Um there's also their baby's temperament that we got to look at. There's also their schedule. How old are they standing, have they hit those developmental milestones? So those are things I definitely look at when it comes to sleep training.
Yeah, that's very interesting. When moms hear about sleep training, most of the time they think about cry out, right? They think about harsh, cruel kind of methodologies, and it sounds scary. So, like when you talk about gentle, like potential evidence-based ways to train baby, what do you mean by that? Can you give us some example?
Yeah, so I think I really want to emphasize that your baby will probably cry. Some babies don't. And the reason why they're crying is because we're actually taking away a habit that we've been doing every single day for naps and bedtime. And now we're saying, okay, now we're going to teach you a new skill. So, they will cry and they will protest when they're learning this new skill. But the one thing I really like to remind parents is that because we're removing this habit from them, we definitely we should have that level of expectation that the baby will be crying. And I really cater to the crying because I think about my own son. I'm a mother as well, and when I was going through sleep training, I was very humbled, if I'm being completely honest, because I thought, oh, my son is going to do great as long as I have the sleep pressure correct. But that wasn't the case, right? Like he was crying, he was protesting, but I was very responsive. Like I checked in on him, I patted him, I even let my clients actually, if they really need to, if it's distress crying, I would actually let my clients pick them up as well, as long as we're letting as long as we're letting them learn the skill. So we still want to put them down and we still want to give them like 5 minutes. If they're doing great, then we want to give them 10 minutes to actually see if we they can pick up on the skill without us constantly touching them or like picking them up as well, right? So we don't neglect the baby in any way. That's not my approach, and I don't believe in that, if I'm being completely honest.
Got it. It sounds like out of crying, there could still be other kind of ways to improve baby sleep.
Yeah.
Patting them, give them like assurance that you are safe, tweaking schedules, right?
Yeah.
Um, so at some point, I realized that cry out may fixing the like one piece of the problem of
Hmm.
sleep association.
Yeah.
There are maybe like more ways surrounding that that could potentially improve baby sleep, and there are more baby sleep problems than just sleep associations, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what are the most common sleep problems that you see in babies that you work with?
So I want to say the number one problem I've seen with the parents that come to me personally is that they're co-sleeping. And believe it or not, co-sleeping is a sleep association. You might
Yeah,
not think it's a sleep association, but it really is, because the baby is now reliant on your warmth, your comfort in bed, and just having that companion to cuddle with. It's great. Is we all love it, right? So
yeah,
that's the biggest sleep association I definitely see. Another one I see is obviously just the regular sleep associations, like rocking, bouncing, nursing their babies to sleep. And then the next biggest one I would say is sleep schedules. So a lot of parents come up to me and they're like, we don't understand why our babies are fighting sleep, or why they're waking up so fussy, or why there's so many false starts after they go to bed. And it really comes down to their schedule. And I don't think there's enough emphasis on how important a baby's schedule is, until they actually go through the process of sleep training with me. Because once they actually see the results, they're like, whoa, like I can't skip a nap, or they get very anxious with skipping naps or having a long pushing a nap back, because obviously life happens and you might get stuck at an event, or you might be cooking and you just can't put your baby to sleep in that second. So they definitely start getting anxious because they see how much a daytime schedule can really impact night sleep by the end of it.
yeah. So when you see things like that, schedule is having an issue, maybe like there are also sleep association, maybe there are more like overtiredness, undertiredness. Like, how do you diagnose a sleep issue? Or
Yeah,
like
so
what kind of data do you look at?
So for me, when I actually send my client an intake form, the first thing I love to ask them is obviously the baby's age. So I definitely want to compare that to what's appropriate for them in terms of sleep. And then a couple other things I ask for is, the first thing I really glance over in an intake form is their schedule. So what time are they waking up? How many day naps are they getting? And what time is bedtime? After I look at that, then I would definitely look at the nighttime waking. So, are they waking up at night? And if they are, is it because you're helping them go to bed? And how are you helping them go to bed? Or is it based off of your day schedule? So, those are the two things I really like to compare, while I'm diagnosing a problem for sure.
Yeah, and when you look at that, do you look at 1 weeks of data, like 7 days, or a month of data? Like, how long of history do you look at?
So for me, I would say 5 days to 7 days of data is sufficient enough for me. And I also like to look at consistency, right? So I would actually start looking into the night wakings. Are they waking up at the exact same time every single day, or are they waking up like at random times? So if it's random, then I wouldn't say that's too much of a schedule issue. But if it's exact same time every night, then I would definitely say that's from habit, and they just
Mm,
might want like nursing, or they just might want a bottle, right? So but if it's random, then I would definitely look at the schedule more. So those are two things I'd really start comparing. You did speak about overtired and undertired. The biggest thing I want to talk about with overtired and undertired, because I know my clients hate those words because it's very hard to distinguish sometimes.
yeah.
So overtired is when your baby has been up for so long and they should have been sleeping, but now you're putting them to bed. And when you do put them to bed, they're going to go to sleep right away because they're so exhausted. But they'll wake up more frequently at night. And the reason why they're waking up more frequently is because they're wired, right? So, same thing with us. When we're up for so long, we get this adrenaline. Babies are the exact same way. Versus undertired is almost like you're forcing a baby to sleep. So sometimes I have parents tell me, "Hey, Abby, it took an hour to put my baby to bed." And I'm like, it should never take an hour. That means that they weren't sleepy.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is your baby still wakes up, and they actually wake up a little bit more happier. So overtired, they're waking up fussy. Undertired, they're actually waking up a lot happier. And the reason why they're happier is because they didn't need to sleep, or they got too
Yeah.
much sleep. So those are the very biggest cues I ask my clients. Even if they tell me, hey, like the baby woke up overnight, I'd say, are they happy or are they upset? That's the first thing I ask, right? And then that's what would help me fix the schedule for sure.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. By looking at are they happy or not when they're waking up, oh, how to tweak your schedule. Are they overtired or undertired? So that's very,
Exactly.
very helpful. Yeah, I think what you described is exactly how we build Coco. We look at baby's side, we look at the data for the last 7 days, and we kind of give parents access to, energy tracking, see at what time baby is potentially overtired or undertired, and based on the night wakings and everything, it provides some access to like kind of initial insights before they can like approach to sleep consultants like you. So if a 6 month old is waking every 2 hours a night, like what are the initial causes you will rule out first? You will, or some initial questions you will ask the parent.
So personally, I don't think a 6 month old should be waking up every 2 hours. So the first thing I would rule out is, are they overtired? Because if they are and they're waking up every 2 hours, that would make a lot of sense, because overtired means a lot of frequent night wakings. Versus my second one would be, how are you putting your 6 month old to sleep? Because to me, if you're putting your 6 month old to sleep with rocking or nursing, and then you're telling me every 2 hours that's exactly how you're putting them back to sleep, that's a very strong sleep association. And that means that your baby does not know how to connect sleep cycles. And then lastly, I would definitely think about the regression phase. So I would ask about the baby's history a little bit. Were they sleeping through the night a few days ago? And did it just happen randomly? And that would make me look at their daytime schedule. So if their daytime schedule looks good for a 6 month old, and the parent says no, they were sleeping perfectly fine, then I would say this is probably a regression. What did they learn? What did they learn that's new? And then we would definitely want the baby to advance on that skill. So the quickest way to get through a regression is to let them keep practicing that skill during the day.
Oh, that's very interesting. Like
Yeah,
keep practicing during the day, and then they will get through it faster.
exactly.
So after, let's say you rule out the first few cause and kind of narrow down your concern to maybe like one to two. What kind of, let's say it's regression. You suspect it's regression, or that you suspect it's co-sleep cycle, co-sleep association. What do you do with clients to test this is the root cause, and how do we go forward?
Yeah, so I kind of play with wake windows a little bit. So I'll come to the regression part later. But if for whatever reason, let's say the baby's sleep trained, we've already sleep trained this baby now, and now the baby's still waking up multiple times a night. So my first biggest thing would be to sleep train the baby. So if a client's coming up to me waking up every 2 hours, the first thing we do is let's teach the baby how to independently sleep. Now that doesn't necessarily fix all night wakings. Sometimes I'll have a baby sleep train. They're actually training well independently for 7 days. And then I see that the baby's still waking up 3 to 4 times a night, which is not usual. Like one thing I really want to emphasize is babies are allowed to come out of sleep cycles. They are not robots. But it's how quickly they're going back down. So do they know how to go back down, and do we need to help? And even if we help, it should only take a few minutes. It shouldn't be like a 30-minute process, right?
Mm.
So that's the biggest thing I did do want to emphasize. So once they're sleep trained, I would look at, okay, what is the schedule? And if I feel like it's appropriate enough for a 6 month old, I will probably think that there might be slight tweaking that we need to fix in order to get them to reduce those night wakings. And I can give you the biggest example. Like I worked with, for example, a 13-month-old who was sleep trained, woke up 3 or 4 times a night still. And one of the wakings, she would be up for like 30 minutes, which is not normal, again, in my case. Like you're allowed to come out of sleep cycles, but it should only be like 1 to 2 times if they do come out of sleep cycles. But she would be up for 30 minutes. Mom was still exhausted and she would be like, I don't get it. She's sleep trained. All I did was adjust her bedtime. So I would be like, her bedtime is still being pushed too late. Let's adjust it. Let's reduce it slightly. And she would sleep through the night. So it would just be something very minor that needs to be tweaked. So and then I think this is where we as experts come in, and we can really look at that day schedule and tweak it. Some babies need a little bit of more wake time before a nap or before bedtime, but some babies are actually doing better on less wake time. So I would definitely play with that schedule a little bit by tweaking it minor and just see how that would impact the night for sure. And I would give it around 2 days to really actually see some results.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful to understand that by tweaking one small thing, you'll be able to solve the whole problems of night
Yeah,
waking.
it's actually
That's
crazy.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So let's say if a baby is having a bedtime at 10 p.m.,
Hmm.
how do you like tweak it from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 7 p.m.? How does the process
So
go?
that's a really good question. And to be honest, I've had many clients that come to me
Yeah.
and say, guess what? Like we just put our babies down at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. My recent client actually said that she puts her baby down at 11 p.m.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so one thing I do notice is there's an adjustment period, right? So your baby is so used to being up for so long. So I usually give it a couple of days to actually really see those nights reduce. Um, a lot of these clients don't realize that their baby is so overtired by 10 or 11 p.m. and they'll be like, oh, my baby's stubborn, he's waking up all the time. And I'm like, actually no, this is just a very bad schedule for your baby at this age. So what I would do is I would actually have the client, because usually what happens is when your baby is sleeping at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., they're also waking up at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. They're actually having a very late start, which pushes back the nap. So they don't my clients don't have time to fit in 2 naps. And usually when they do, they fit it in by like the last nap is by 5 or 6 p.m., which is already extremely late. And then they have like the 10 p.m. bedtime, right? So what I would do is I would actually get my client to wake up their baby early the next day. The biggest complaint I get from that is, oh, but my baby looks so sleepy. And I'm like, that's fine. I know they're going to be sleepy, but that's because we woke them up like an hour, 2 hours earlier than we should have. But we're really just fixing their schedule. So sometimes I won't even sleep train. I'll give it like 2 to 3 days of just really fixing their schedule. So the baby's at least used to waking up at 8 or 8:30 in the morning. I'm latest 8:30 in the morning. And then going back to sleep by like 8 p.m. And I would give it a couple of days and then we would sleep train, because it's still a transition period for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So give them a small period to adjust to, like the new schedule and then start sleep train. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. And talking about naps, when a baby is constantly having, less than 30 minutes short naps, what would you adjust and what do you think could be the main cause?
So the main cause for a 30-minute nap is either they're overtired or undertired. So I would really look at how quickly is the baby going to sleep. So is the baby taking too long to go to sleep? Then I would definitely say that the baby is under tired. And if the baby's sleeping even within like seconds or minutes, then I would be like, okay, then maybe they're overtired. Because I'm usually like on average, it should take at least like 5 to 15 minutes to go to bed, right? So that would make me adjust the wake window. So I might increase it or decrease it based off of the stats that the client gives me. Um, a short nap, there's always a reason for a short nap. It's definitely because of a schedule issue or a schedule imbalance.
Got it. So the time the baby is taking from put to bed to fall asleep is very important for your diagnostic, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, it reminds me of a recent feature that we added to Cocoo. It's like you can not only log the sleep and wake up time, you can also log when you put the bed so that when you serve this data to sleep consultants like you, parents can also show, on average how much time the baby is taking to put them to bed and fall asleep. Um,
That's great, actually, because a lot of times I get my clients to manually type it out. So if they can just send
yeah.
me that data, that would be awesome.
Coco can analyze data, analyze sleep logs, it extract baby sleep patterns, and highlight maybe like the top three potential issues for sleep problems and also generate personalized schedules that kind of rebalances everything and tweak it a little bit to meet the standards more. And if a parent go to you with these data already in hand, would that be helpful to you? Would that change, how you are working right now?
Yeah, so what I love from the parents that I work with is I love we have an average of like when a baby should be sleeping, right? So we have an average of like, hey, a 6 month old, they should be sleeping every couple of hours, and this would be bedtime. But with the data that I like from my parents is obviously it varies from like by half an hour per baby. So when parents are sending me data that like, hey, like my baby is sleeping at this time and this time every single day during for naps and bedtime, it gives me a good average of what their wake windows are, which will actually be very, very beneficial for me to actually get the sleep pressure on par by like closer to 100% versus me being like, this is my estimate based off of your baby's age, because obviously every baby is different, and even 30 minutes can make a big difference for their particular baby, right? So I love that data, and I think that if your app can just send me that data, I would probably feel way more confident than the parent sending me the data, because I know that everything's being recorded in that app for sure.
That's exactly what we're doing in Coco. We want to help parents. We want to help sleep consultants. We want to like provide as much insights as we could
Yeah.
to surface the sleep issue, sleep association, everything. We're coming towards the end of the podcast, and for my last question, what's one piece of reassurance you'd like to give to an exhausted mom watching this?
Oh, that's a great question. So I definitely want to tell every mom out there that they're not alone and we all go through it. And I don't want you to ever feel guilty for getting into survival mode. Rather, that means that you brought your baby to bed. That means you brought in sleep associations, or you're just not very strict with day schedules. It's okay. We've all been there, and it does get better. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Especially coming with a newborn and just going through postpartum, it's extremely difficult to like navigate sleep on top of just healing yourself. So I just want to let every mother know to just, be easy on yourself. You're not alone. We've all been there, and we're here to support each other.
Yeah, that's very reassuring. Actually, I've heard a lot of moms saying that, "Oh, my baby is just a bad sleeper." I've tried everything and it's just not working.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Do you think some baby could just born to be a bad sleeper, or like is it fixable?
I definitely think it's fixable. I think it comes down to their schedule and just building that sleep pressure appropriate for your baby, right? So again, it's constantly changing because your baby is constantly growing. So I think as mothers, it's really hard to keep up with that. But that definitely does not mean that they're a bad sleeper. I think that's a myth. So it's really based off of how you can really solidify their schedule to make sure that their nights are way better or their naps are better for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I remember that I needed to hear something like that 3 years ago when I go through.
When you went through it, yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
when I went through the challenging, stage of my daughter sleeping.
Oh,
I wish I talked to you 3 years ago.
oh, thank you. I wish I was there for you, but I actually didn't even have a son 3 years ago.
I think because there is always noise out there and about around baby sleep and I think what parents really need is like real expertise like you,
Yeah.
real reassurance, real help, and always know, what's the right tool to support them. And we hope that every parent could have that clarity and support they need when it comes down to rule out potential cause. And today, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll make sure that we link everything down below in the description, your website, your Instagram. I'll also link Coco's download link down below. I really loved our conversation, Avi, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time. And for everyone who's watching this episode out there, if you think this is helping in any ways, please share it with another tired parent who needs it. And we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, Sue.